The exclusive Royal Ranch Hotel, on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona, shimmered under the desert sun. Its meticulously landscaped gardens and restored Spanish colonial architecture formed the perfect setting for the weekend's most coveted event, a networking retreat organized by National Investment Bank to connect Los Angeles business leaders with opportunities in the region's agricultural sector. Alexander Montgomery, president of a major department store chain, adjusted his Italian silk tie as he surveyed the rural surroundings with disdain. "Do we really have to pretend to care about these farmers and their crops?" he muttered. To his colleague is Gabrielle Sanders, heiress to a real estate fortune and known for her ruthless business acumen. "It's just a weekend, Alexander," she replied, checking her latest model phone. "We show up, smile, make useful connections, and return to civilization. Besides, I've heard there are interesting tax incentives for agricultural investments." The group of 10 executives stood out conspicuously among the other guests. Their designer suits and haughty attitudes formed an invisible barrier separating them from the local representatives. They all shared the same mindset, extracting profit from the land without truly understanding or respecting it. "Welcome to our annual Agribusiness Opportunity Summit," announced Ryan Sinclair, the bank's regional director. "This year we're honored to have a very special host, a woman who knows this land like the back of her hand." The executives exchanged bored glances, expecting to meet some local official or regional politician. "Let me introduce Ms. Lucy Fernandez, who will graciously host us tomorrow on her property for the main session." A woman in her 50s stepped up to the small podium. She wore a traditional embroidered blouse, a simple skirt, and had her dark hair streaked with silver pulled into a braid. Her sun-weathered face carried a quiet dignity that went entirely unnoticed by the city visitors. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen," she greeted them in a distinct rural accent. "It's a pleasure to welcome you to our land. Tomorrow we'll share experiences and perhaps learn from one another." Her speech was brief, and as soon as she stepped away, stifled laughter arose among the city elites. "That woman is going to teach us about business," scoffed you, Richard Vaughan, a young tech entrepreneur. "She can barely string a sentence together. I'm sure she'll show us how to milk cows and plant corn," Gabrielle added, sparking more laughter. Alexander, ever calculating, interjected, "Don't be so harsh. These people have their uses. If we want to expand here, we need someone who speaks the language of the locals." At dinner, the group kept to themselves, swapping anecdotes about their successes back in the city and occasionally casting superior glances at the other attendees. Lucy Fernandez moved discreetly between tables, greeting everyone with the same warmth, regardless of background or appearance. At one point, she approached the city executives' table. "I hope the food is to your liking," she said with a genuine smile. "Everything is locally sourced." "Delicious," Alexander replied with feigned politeness. "Though I suppose it's hard to compete with the international cuisine we're used to back home. Every flavor has its place and time," Lucy replied without losing her composure. "May I ask what specifically brings you to our gathering?" "Portfolio diversification, mainly," Gabrielle explained condescendingly. "The agricultural sector is financially undervalued. With the right technology and professional management, even the smallest farm can turn a profit." "Interesting perspective," Lucy nodded. "Have you considered the human factor in that equation?" Richard barely suppressed a laugh. "With all due respect, ma'am, business is about numbers, not feelings. People adapt or get left behind." Lucy simply smiled. "I see. Enjoy your evening, and we'll meet tomorrow at my humble property." As she walked away, the comments followed. "Her humble property? Probably a glorified chicken coop," Richard muttered. "These people don't understand the scale we operate at," Alexander added. "To them, an acre is an empire." Meanwhile, at another table, Ryan Sinclair watched the scene with concern. He discreetly approached Lucy. "Miss Fernandez, are you sure you want to go through with this? I can see they're not treating you with the respect you deserve." She smiled serenely. "Don't worry, Ryan. Sometimes people need to show who they truly are before they're ready to hear the truth." Tomorrow will be an educational day for everyone. The next morning, the executives boarded a fleet of SUVs headed to Lucy's property. As they drove farther from Phoenix, the disparaging remarks increased. "How much longer to this little farm?" Gabriel asked, visibly irritated by the trip. The driver, who had been silent until then, replied neutrally, "We're already crossing the first sections of Miss Fernandez's land. The main house is about 20 minutes ahead." A stunned silence fell as they observed the vast plantations stretching on both sides of the road. Perfectly aligned rows of blue agave extended as far as the eye could see, interspersed with modern irrigation systems and small monitoring stations. "All this belongs to yesterday's woman?" Alexander finally asked, unable to hide his surprise. "This is just the agave sector," the driver explained. "There's still the organic crop fields, processing facilities, and research center." The executives exchanged confused glances. Something didn't fit the image they'd constructed of their host. The SUVs stopped in front of a contemporary building seamlessly integrated into the rural landscape. Large windows reflected the surrounding mountains, while traditional materials like local stone and wood blended with steel and glass in a harmonious fusion of old and new. "This is a farmhouse," Gabrielle murmured in disbelief. "This is our operations center," a young woman greeted them at the entrance. "Welcome to Sustainable Agro Industries Fernandez. I'm Valentina, executive assistant to the CEO. Please follow me to the conference room." The visitors trailed Valentina through a lobby decorated with historical photos of the region and charts displaying production, export, and sustainability data. Staff members, mostly middle-aged women, greeted them professionally as they efficiently carried out their tasks. They finally entered a spacious room with panoramic views of the fields. The central table, made of mesquite wood, was impeccably prepared with folders, electronic devices, and locally sourced refreshments. On the main wall, the company logo, a stylized plant with roots forming a world map, dominated the space. "Please take your seats," Valentina instructed. "The presentation will begin in 5 minutes." Alexander discreetly scanned the documents in front of him. His eyes widened as he read the figures. Exports to 15 countries, international. Certifications, agricultural biotech patents, and a vertically integrated business model, spanning production to final distribution. "This can't be real," he whispered to Richard. "These numbers surpass any agribusiness in the country." Before they could speculate further, the doors opened. Lucy Fernandez entered, but her appearance had subtly changed. Though she still wore the embroidered blouse, it was now paired with elegant slacks and designer shoes. Her braid had been replaced with a professional updo, and her movements exuded natural authority. "Good morning, everyone," she greeted them, her rural accent still present, but now underscored with firmness. "Welcome to our headquarters. I'm Lucille Fernandez Ortiz, founder and CEO of Sustainable Agro Industries Fernandez. Today we'll share our business model and explore potential collaborations, if your companies meet our standards." A tomb-like silence filled the room. The faces that had once shown disdain now reflected confusion and shame. Alexander was the first to recover. "Ms. Fernandez, it's an honor to finally see the true scale of your enterprise. Let me say, we're deeply impressed." Lucy smiled faintly. "I appreciate the sudden sincerity, Mr. Montgomery. Let's begin with the hard data, shall we? Valentina, please." The lights dimmed, and a presentation began. Over the next hour, Lucy detailed with technical precision and strategic vision how her company had grown from a small plot inherited from her father into a cutting-edge agro-industrial conglomerate with sustainable practices and a social responsibility model that had transformed the regional economy. "When I sought my first major loan to modernize production, every city bank turned me down," she explained calmly. "One banker, brutally honest, told me an uneducated farm woman could never compete in international markets." Her gaze briefly rested on Richard, who shifted uncomfortably. 3 years later, that same bank offered me financing when I no longer needed it. Turns out my lack of formal education was a was offset by my PhD in agronomy from UC Davis and my MBA from Stanford. The presentation continued, showcasing agricultural innovations developed in-house. Our hydroponic technology for semi-arid climates has been licensed to companies on 3 continents, Lucy said. And our agave processing patent for pharmaceuticals generates more royalties than the entire traditional tequila production in this region. Gabrielle, normally unflappable, couldn't hide her astonishment. Ms. Fernandez, this is remarkable. How did you secure the initial capital to expand like this? An excellent question, Lucy replied. When traditional channels failed me, I partnered with a tech startup, developing vertical farming solutions. I offered my land as a testing ground in exchange for equity. 2 years later, when Silicon Valley discovered agritech, our valuation multiplied 50-fold. Richard paled. Was it vertical harvest technologies? Exactly, Lucy confirmed. If I recall, you declined to invest, Mr. Vaughan. Something about vertical farms being sci-fi and never profitable? The other executives glanced at Richard with expressions ranging from surprise to barely concealed mockery. The young tech entrepreneur who had earlier boasted about his visionary instincts now seemed to shrink in his seat. But let's move to what I'm most proud of, Lucy continued smoothly. Our workforce. The presentation displayed images of employees, predominantly women over 45, many with indigenous features, working in high-tech labs, operating advanced machinery, and leading teams. 78% of our employees are women who'd never had formal employment before, 65% are single mothers, and 42% come from indigenous communities. All receive continuous training, above-average wages, and profit sharing. The visitors watched in silence, confronted not just with Lucy's business success, but with the social impact of her model. When I started, many said it was impossible to train these simple women to operate advanced tech, that I'd need to hire city technicians. Turns out, these simple women not only learned quickly, but improved processes with their ancestral knowledge of plants and local weather patterns. Ryan Sinclair, the bank representative, spoke up. Sustainable Agro Industries Fernandez has been recognized by the World Bank as a case study in social integration and sustainable economic development. And now, Lucy added as the presentation showed a global distribution map, we export to 15 countries, have joint ventures on 3 continents, and are developing climate-resistant crops in collaboration with universities in the US, Spain, and Japan. Alexander Montgomery, a veteran of corporate battles, was genuinely impressed. For decades, he'd built his empire by underestimating competitors. Now, a woman he'd dismissed as a simple farmer demonstrated business acumen that rivaled, perhaps surpassed his own. Miss Fernandez, he said diplomatically, we've clearly underestimated your operation. I'd like to explore collaboration between your company and our department stores for exclusive distribution of your premium organic products. The room fell silent, awaiting Lucy's response. She smiled calmly. I appreciate your interest, Mr. Montgomery, she said. However, we have strict partner criteria. We evaluate not just financial capacity, but social vision and treatment of rural communities. At Sustainable Agro Industries Fernandez, respect isn't negotiable. An uncomfortable silence followed. Alexander, accustomed to closing deals with charm and financial power, found himself in uncharted territory, someone rejecting his offer on ethical grounds. Of course, he said quickly. Our corporate group has robust social responsibility programs, and we'd gladly align with your vision. Lucy nodded non-committally. We'll review your proposal. For now, let's continue the tour. For the next 2 hours, the executives were guided through biotech labs, organic food processing plants, and training centers. In each area, women of varying ages explained complex processes with technical precision while operating state-of-the-art equipment. At lunch in the main dining hall, Gabrielle approached Lucy discreetly. Miss Fernandez, I must confess something. she began, her tone uncharacteristically humble. "When I saw you yesterday, I made assumptions I'm now deeply ashamed of." "I'm no stranger to underestimation, Ms. Sanders," Lucy replied without hostility. "The question is, what will you do with that lesson?" Gabrielle paused. "I run a foundation funding university scholarships. We've always focused on urban students with perfect grades. It's time to reconsider and include rural communities." "That would be meaningful change," Lucy acknowledged. "If you proceed, I'd be happy to share our experience identifying talent in overlooked areas." The tour continued to an unexpected section, an education center where older women trained in digital technology, languages, and management. "This is our second chance program," Lucy explained. "Women who never had formal education receive comprehensive training. Many started as cleaners and now lead entire departments." Richard, who'd been the most dismissive earlier, watched a woman in her 60s explain irrigation optimization algorithms to young engineers. "Is she part of the program?" he asked Valentina. "Engineer Carmen is our Director of Automated Systems," Valentina replied. "She started 12 years ago as a janitor. Today she holds 3 patents and oversees our Applied Tech division." The woman approached upon recognizing Lucy. "Ms. Fernandez, the new smart irrigation system exceeded all expectations. We've cut water usage by 43% without losing productivity." "Outstanding work, Carmen," Lucy said proudly. "Meet our city guests interested in our model." Carmen greeted the group warmly, but when she shook Richard's hand, something unexpected happened. Richard Vaughan," she asked in surprise. "Don't you remember me?" The young entrepreneur stared blankly. "I'm Carmen Jimenez. I worked as a housekeeper for your parents when you were a boy. Your mother was kind. She let me borrow books from her library." Richard's face transformed as recognition dawned. "Mrs. Jimenez, you helped me with math homework. You said I had a knack for numbers, but that you'd never had the chance to study." "The same," she smiled. "Life takes unexpected turns. When Ms. Fernandez gave me the opportunity to learn, I discovered it's never too late to find your calling." The group fell into a moved silence. What had begun as a superficial networking event had become a human encounter, transcending social hierarchies and prejudices. Back in the main hall, Ryan Sinclair addressed the group. "Ms. Fernandez, on behalf of National Investment Bank, I apologize for not valuing your vision when we first met. Inspired by your model, we'd like you to chair a new investment fund dedicated to rural women entrepreneurs." Lucy considered the offer. "I'm honored, but my time is limited. I'll accept on one condition. The evaluation committee must consist exclusively of women with rural development experience, not just city executives." "Absolutely," Ryan agreed. "I was thinking the same." The day ended with a garden dinner. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically since the previous night. The once disdainful executives now listened with genuine interest to Lucy and her team's stories. Alexander approached Lucy as the evening wound down. "I've learned more in 24 hours than in all the leadership seminars I've attended," he admitted. "My business vision has always been urban, and I realize now, limited by prejudices I didn't even know I had." "Honest acknowledgement is the first step toward real change," she replied. "I've thought about your rejection," he continued, "and I understand it. I'm not here to insist, but to commit. I'll transform my company's hiring policies to actively include rural candidates, especially women over 45. Lucy studied him. "That would be significant for a conglomerate your size. Precisely why it must be done," he said firmly. "We have the influence to normalize what you've proven. Talent knows no age, gender, or geography." The next morning, before the executives departed, Lucy gave each a handmade box crafted by local artisans. Inside were samples of her products, invitations to future workshops, and a handwritten note. Alexander's read, "A person's worth isn't measured by appearance or origin, but by their ability to recognize worth in others. May our next conversation begin with mutual respect." On the flight back to Los Angeles, the group that had arrived united by shared arrogance now traveled in reflective silence, each processing the lessons learned. Gabrielle drafted new guidelines for her foundation, focusing on rural female talent. Richard scheduled a call to revisit agricultural tech investments he'd previously dismissed as too rural. Alexander gazed out the window at a landscape he'd never truly seen before, envisioning a business incubator for rural entrepreneurs. 3 months later, National Investment Bank launched the Fernandez Fund for Rural Women Entrepreneurs, the first of its kind in North America. At the ceremony, Lucy stayed in the background, letting the spotlight shine on the first grantees, 15 women from across the U.S. with innovative projects in sustainable farming, tech-integrated crafts and rural services. Among the attendees were Alexander, Gabrielle and Richard, transformed by their experience in the Arizona ranch. No longer the arrogant elites who'd arrived seeking exploitation, they now understood that America's true potential lay in bridging divides, urban and rural, traditional and modern, the wisdom of elders and the energy of youth. Lucy watched from a corner, satisfied. Her strategy had worked. She hadn't sought revenge for their initial contempt, but transformation through example. And as she saw these powerful city executives genuinely applauding rural women they'd have ignored months before, she knew her greatest achievement wasn't her exports or patents, but building bridges where there had once been only prejudice.